Hola, buenos días chicos y chicas, espero que estén muy bien. I'm back with another video. You guys know I took a brief hiatus here. I haven't posted a video for about a month. Just been super busy with work, you know how that goes, life happens. But I'm really glad to be back. I missed interacting with you guys and all of that, and I had some fun ideas. I was excited to make some new videos, so here I am. Also, I'm really excited for a couple collaborations I have coming up, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, let's hop right into the video. Today I'm going to be talking about how I really plan to improve my Spanish in the new year. I gave myself a lot of New Year's resolutions, not just this year, but also last year with Spanish, and I'm happy to report back that I actually achieved all of them. I got my B2 certification in Spanish. That was one of my main goals. I did a ton of reading. I did a lot of conversation practice. I learned a lot of new vocabulary. But let me hop into this year and talk about what specific goals I have for myself in order to improve my Spanish. So the first thing I want to talk about is the C1 Spanish exam, which I plan to take in November this year. So if you keep up with my channel, you know that it was November. Was it I would have been last year? No, it would have been 2 years ago. November 2 years ago, 2022. That I took the B2 exam, and I did end up passing it with a pretty good score. And so it's been over a year since then, almost a year and a half. Honestly, I feel like if I did take the C1 exam now, I feel like there's a pretty good chance I could probably pass it. But I do want to give myself a lot more time because I want to go into it really, really prepared, and I want to come out of it knowing I passed. And there's going to be a couple things I need to practice this year in order to get to that point. I really like where my conversation skills are, where my speaking skills are. I feel like I'll be good there, especially by November. You know, I have 8-9 months until then, so I should be ready. But specifically what I'm going to need to work on a lot is my writing. And so in order to study for the C1 exam, I'm probably going to be doing a lot more writing. This kind of ties into some of my other New Year's resolution, which is to finish a journal for the first time ever. I'm huge into journaling. I love journals, but sadly I've never actually finished one. I love buying journals and then I love starting them, but really, really difficult for me to finish a journal. And so that's one of my goals this year, which means I'm going to be doing a lot of writing, which means, you know, I'll be able to practice my writing in Spanish, which again is something I'm going to need for that C1 exam. Because when I took the B2 exam, that was my weakest section, was the writing section. And so, yeah, I'll be working on that a lot. Also, the listening. You know, when I went into the B2 exam, I thought I'd have absolutely no problem with the listening section because I practice listening more than anything else. You know, podcasts, videos, movies, whatever. Conversation, you're practicing listening too. So I felt ready on that. My mistake was that I didn't actually practice the specific exercises that they give you in the exam, which are they're just like a certain type of question. It's not enough just to have good listening skills to pass that section of the B2 Delhi exam. You've also got to know the format of the test, know that you're actually answering questions as they're playing the audio for you, because there's not really any space between the audio that they play for you. And so you have to be ready to sort of be reading and answering questions as you're listening and be able to do that multitasking, which I was definitely not ready for. So a lot of stuff to prepare for the C1 exam. I'm also going to be learning a ton of new technical vocabulary. I'll probably find some specific tutors online on italki that can help me out with that. But yeah, that's my first goal. Very excited for that one. Last year, I had the goal of reading a lot more in Spanish. Also happy to report back that last year I definitely read more than I've ever read in my whole life. Not combined, but in terms of the most I've ever read in 1 year, right? I completed 10 books, which I know is not a huge amount. I know there are people who are reading dozens and dozens of books who are reading a book a week. That's not me right now, at least. But 10 books is a lot for me in a year. My original goal was 12. I wanted to read a book a month. Obviously didn't achieve that. This year, I kind of wanted to meet somewhere in the middle, so I said 6. I want to read 6 books this year, but with the caveat that I want them to be slightly more difficult books. Books in Spanish, of course, but slightly more difficult ones. I think I will not have any problem meeting that goal and probably surpassing it. I have already read 2 books, although they were both shorter. I just finished the second book of the Harry Potter series in Spanish, which, by the way, I enjoyed a lot. I've kind of said some bad things about Harry Potter in the past on my channel regarding reading it in Spanish. Obviously, there's all the drama with J.K. Rowling. We all know she's not a good person, so we should not necessarily be supporting her work. But besides that, there's just the fact that I believe it's much better to be reading something written by native speakers. You're going to learn more about the culture. You know, you're kind of paying homage to the culture in a way. I think that's much more important. You're going to have different ways to connect with native speakers who grew up reading these books. So in general, I think it's better to do that. But I did want to read the second book in the Harry Potter series because I knew it would repeat a lot of the vocab that I learned from the first book, which is true. There were very few words I had to look up, and I felt like I had really good comprehension of the book. Probably like 99% I was able to understand, which is a very cool feeling. So that was the first book that I've read so far this year, and we're not even in February yet. I also finished a graded reader, one of the Ollie Richards books. You know, if you're a Spanish language learner, you've probably heard of Ollie Richards before. He wrote these amazing graded readers that range from, I think he has ones even for A1, A2 level up to the C levels. This was a B2 graded reader, which means it was specifically written for someone with a B2 level of Spanish, and it was about World War I. This was a recommendation from Joe Sema. I have an interview with him on my channel. He's another Spanish language YouTuber. Really great channel. Check him out. But yeah, he recommended me some of those graded readers from Ollie Richards, and I really enjoyed that as well. So those were both short books. But the next book I'm going to read is a big one. So with my book club, you guys know about my Spanish book club that I'm in. We're going to be reading Cien Años de Soledad, which we've been talking about reading for a really, really long time, since we started the book club over a year ago. And we've just been kind of putting it off because we know that it's a big one. It's a big book. It's over 500 pages, 20 chapters, each 20 to 30 pages. And we know it's going to be a difficult one. It's in that magic realism style. So again, at times, because of that style that it's written in, that can make it hard to understand the plot. But we know that, you know, Gabriel Garcia Marquez is like an incredible writer. We know that we're going to really enjoy it. And we were also really inspired because of the new show that they released on Netflix. We want to watch the show together as a book club, but we figured it would be better to read the book first, and then we could kind of enjoy the show together. So I'm really excited to read that book. I do have a plan. I found a website that kind of breaks down each chapter of the book. It gives you a summary and then an analysis of each chapter. Again, it's 20 chapters, each chapter 20 to 30 pages. So my plan with it, I'm going to try to get through 2 chapters a week. So in total, it should take me about 2.5 months. I just started it. Going well so far. But my plan is I want to read a chapter summary. Before I read the chapter summary first, after which I would read the chapter. Then I want to go back, read the chapter summary one more time, and then read the analysis that the website also gives you about that chapter, more of like a literary analysis. And so really it's a 4-step process. Summary, read the chapter, read the summary again, read the analysis. And I think what that's going to help me do is like just understand what I'm reading a lot better, because there are going to surely be a lot of words I don't understand, a lot of phrases I don't understand, a lot of just poetic speech I don't understand. And that's going to make it hard to understand the story if I'm not going about it in a very conscious way. And I do want to understand the story, because reading 500 plus pages of something you don't understand is not very enjoyable, as I'm sure you know. Okay, so that's my reading goal. Besides that, I have a couple other goals I've talked about before, that I want to use my Spanish more in real life, sin avergonzarme, without getting embarrassed. And that's something that's always been hard for me to do. Actually, it was easier in the beginning, I felt like, when I had more of like a basic level of Spanish. Because when you have that basic level, I feel like native speakers are very willing to help you out. Like, they understand that you're just starting out with the language. It's almost like a novelty in a way. And then obviously if you're a native speaker, you don't have that issue at all. But when you're in the middle, when you're in that intermediate or upper intermediate stage, it's kind of a weird spot to be, because you don't get that same sort of response directed at you that's often directed at beginners who are trying something, where there's more of like an understanding, more of like a sensitivity, I guess I would say. But you're also obviously, they notice that you're not a native speaker, and that's obvious as well. And so what happens a lot is that they will switch to English, which is understandable. But that makes it a little bit hard. But what I want to try doing is just like forcing myself to do it, because I'm at a point now with my Spanish where I really can talk about any topic, any sort of thing. Occasionally I'll need to ask for some clarification. I'll need to talk my way around something if I can't remember the exact word for it or the phrase. But overall, I feel confident in talking to anyone about anything, and so I should use that skill more in real life. And I've started to do that a little bit. Like, a couple of the teachers at my school that I know speak Spanish, now I exclusively speak to them in Spanish, and that has been a great way to practice, just get my practice every day. But I want to start doing it more with Uber drivers, restaurants, people in the streets, stuff like that. So I will keep you guys updated on how that's going. And then the final thing here that I want to do this year is to listen to more music in Spanish. So something in general that I want to do in my life is get back to listening to music. You guys know I'm a musician. It's literally what I do for work. I'm a music teacher. But since I started learning Spanish, that's something that's kind of gone on the back burner a little bit. I still have my band I practice with. I still play music on my own. But I used to do a lot more with it. But just now, because Spanish has taken up a lot of my time, all of that, like I said, has kind of gone on the back burner a little bit. And I think one way that I can kind of integrate those two things is literally just listening to more music in Spanish. There are a couple artists that I really like. One of my favorites right now is Jorge Drexler. He's a Uruguayan artist, but honestly, I could go for some suggestions. So if there's like a Latino or Spanish artist that you really like, please put it in the comments here so I can check it out. If there's a specific song, a specific album. I'm more of an album person in general. I like listening to entire albums and kind of seeing like the flow of them, and I'll usually have an album on repeat for a couple weeks before I move on to something else. So yeah, give me all your requests for that down below. And also please let me know, like, what are your goals this year for your Spanish? Because I think it's a really good idea. Even if you don't think you're going to meet that goal, I think just writing it down helps give you some motivation. So let me know in the comments below. And again, I'm going to try to be more consistent with my videos. Stay tuned for those collaborations I got coming up, and I will see you in the next one.